Melanin Voices is a podcast geared towards building a community of those on a journey of self-discovery. We create space for guests and listeners to share their stories about their exploration of life, appreciation of the good, and how they overcame certain bullshit to get to where they are.
Every week, we take a dive into topics that affect each of our lives at one point or another. Hopefully, by hearing our voices, we will give you the courage to live authentically.
I'm Mariah, also known as Mariah Amazing.
And Una, hey! Now you are tuned into Melanin Voices.
Ready?
Let's do it.
Hey, you guys, it's Mariah.
Oh, hey, dang. I didn't know that you
I said, are you ready?
But I thought you were just, okay. Hey, y'all.
Don't do me like that. Don't do me. Hi, everyone. We are back.
What's up?
And we have a very special guest. Usually, they won't see her, so it doesn't really matter.
What?
Because last time I was like, well, they're going to see her, so we should introduce her first.
Oh.
But if they're not going to see her, we're not really seeing her.
Well, we want to know how she's been too, so we can.
Exactly. Well, we have a very... Sorry, you guys. Clearly, we're all over the place. We have a very special guest with today. Dr. Shaakira Stewart. And before we get into a little bit later about who she is and why she's on our podcast episode today, we wanted to have a recap of our last episode that we recorded, since it's been a while, since last time you heard us, possibly. And so our last podcast episode was titled Ready for Love. And all of we weren't even really talking about relationships like we were, because we were talking about a show that we love on OWN. It was mainly about how we were adjusting to quarantine life, questions like that, like who we want to be quarantined with. But we got on the topic of Ready to Love, because I told you about this show I was watching about Black singles in Atlanta that were 30 and over who were trying their hand at dating. And it was a very interesting show. Yeah. And it's funny because the couple that made the most impact at the reunion are actually still together, while the others I don't really think are together, because I did stalk their Instagrams. So yeah.
Is that the ones that
that made that big ruckus? Like everybody's like, whoa, shocked by them being a couple. Yeah, they're still together.
Oh, good for them.
Guess it was worth the hate.
I mean,
I guess it was worth it.
That. My brother probably saying friends, so I'm sorry, I got gun, but
I was just moving the mic to you closer so they could pick up on your lovely voice. That's all. But I mean, she's so, you didn't even tell me everything today. Like, you were telling her yourself when she got back from a bike ride, she's like, oh, I'm sorry, friend, I might be a little tart. Like, I didn't even say anything.
And then you followed up with, yeah, you kind of are. So I'm just like,
but it's not like there. Bad, friend. It's like, like Black Mamas, how they tell you to smell like outside. It's like a little outside.
Wow,
you're giving me off pine tree vibes.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Nothing crazy.
Anyway, let's actually get into Roses and Thorns before,
we get into a fight.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So
before I throw you into a thorn bush.
Girl, bye.
Okay.
So to get everyone up to speed, Roses and Thorns is... Actually, no, before we get into that, check out Ready for Love episode and let us know who would you rather be quarantined with, and have you seen the show Ready for Love on OWN, But yes, Roses and Thorns. Rose is one thing that happened to you that you love this week, and something that happened to you that you didn't so much love this week. And we're going to start with Dr. Shaakira.
Okay. Let's see. I think so my rose would be getting some projects done. I think at first I was like, oh my gosh, like this quarantine, it's so much time, like so much pressure to be creative. And I think it's given me like too much time to actually like be creative on my own speed, because I feel like sometimes it's like, oh, I have this weekend, I got to get something done. And it's like this pressure, but I feel like this time is giving me like the opportunity to like be creative and not be rushed, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
So I feel like I really like that as my rose. And then my thorn would be, like I said, like this is overall COVID-19, wearing these masks. Like I'm just trying to figure out how it's going to be all summer with these tan lines. You know what I mean?
Girl.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
I didn't think about that at all,
You're gonna be
actually.
looking stupid as fuck.
Definitely. I was thinking about us breathing. I was like, it's going to be hot as hell.
Right.
And especially you within New York, it's going to be humid as hell.
Oh,
So
God.
hot and humid with the mask on your face in like
Sheesh.
90-degree weather.
Mhm.
That's recipe for disaster.
Not looking forward to that.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, damn, I wasn't even thinking about the tan lines, but you're
See
absolutely
now
right.
it's a thorn.
Now it's a thorn. Now I'm gonna have to add it onto my list. Yeah, for sure. Well, good luck with all your projects that you're creating and all that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I feel like I never had time in life, but
Yeah,
then I have ample time.
yeah, for
So
sure.
much of it. What about you?
Well, something that I have been coming to terms with this. I'm gonna start with the thorn.
Okay.
I guess just tell you guys. Is that I need to. I don't know, you guys. I'm just having a really hard time, if I can be vulnerable with you guys, with accepting change in the areas of romantic life. And so it's just been really hard for me. Don't do that, because I'm gonna start crying.
Okay.
Right, I was
You
gonna say, as soon
know.
as you touch somebody, then
Wait,
that's
don't.
already.
She's like,
know it's a
you want
trigger.
girl.
Sorry.
Like, don't do that. Yeah, but I appreciate the love. So yes, that's been such a big thorn, but coming to a realization that I need to make those changes and just praying and getting closer to God has been really well. So I think that's my rose. Getting more acquainted with God has been my rose.
See how you said first you said, I'm gonna start with my thorn, and then you changed it, and now it's a rose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at that.
Yes, looking at the positive side.
Look,
of
the
things.
silver lining.
Okay,
Not even
friend.
silver lining, but
Growth.
the good.
Growth.
Exactly.
Okay.
The good.
Look at you.
Mhm.
Oh.
I'm out here growing. I'm a grown girl. Go
Grown
ahead.
ass woman.
Mhm.
Okay. My rose is. Oh my god! I just got some hiking boots today. I'm so.
Oh
excited.
my God, they're so cute with the pair of nice jeans. Ooh. Oh, okay, to go hiking. Got it.
I was gonna say definitely not.
You can
I'm
see
like,
where
pair
her-
with some Levi's and you're good to go.
Stop! It's not for fashion. Okay, it's for
Oh.
hiking. I'm so excited about that. I've been wanting a pair, but I just always thought that they were like $65, and I just can't spend $65 on.
I thought they were expensive.
Girl, it was $20 at Big Five. At the Big Five, it's a sporting
Really?
goods store.
Oh wow.
Yep. So I got me a pair. So I'm super happy about that. I'm happy. I'm not gonna lie. This time off has been. I mean, so, I ain't gonna lie. Some demons been coming up, but I've been appreciating being able to do whatever the fuck I want to. Get up when I want to. Go to sleep when I want to.
Yeah.
I wish.
On a Wednesday in the middle of the day. Like I love that. You know, being outside has really helped my mood a whole lot. A thorn for me would be that I could like road trip, but I can't like really fly right now. And it's like, I hate having this time off and not being able to fly anywhere, go on any trip.
Go anywhere.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I might have taken a road trip or two, but that's neither here nor there.
That's not for you to know. It's for me
Yeah.
to know.
Okay. Right. Mind your business.
Mind your business.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's good that you're getting back to things that you love to do. I unfortunately have not been able to take a break, which has been so annoying. I know some girl tweeted the other day. She was all like, why does it feel like I have not been able to rest during this time? Because, I'm still working from home, and also I'm balancing like a work-life balance. I'm like, usually I clock out like, bye,
Right.
I'm
Right.
out. Now it's like I'm having a hard time separating work from home because I'm working in my home. So
and then people are always like, but girl, you blessed to have a job, which is true, but it still doesn't like negate the fact that like,
can I have my
moment?
Chill.
It doesn't take away from the fact that I am grateful to be making income, because that could be a thing that I'm worried about. However,
right.
I was gonna say something ignorant.
No, don't do it, please.
I'm gonna do it. If I had another thorn, it would be that the people who get unemployment are making more money than me right now. I'm feeling the ways about that.
Do you think people lie on their unemployment? That's just something I was thinking about. I'm like, if you're like, oh, I'm a self-owned business person, like whatever, like I make this much a month, like, you know what I mean? Do you think people be lying?
I mean, I know people be lying.
They can, but I've applied for, well, because I got fired, but no, it's no secret. But I applied, and they really be on your ass about if it's true or not. Like they check with you, and then they call the employer to make sure the stories line up.
But do they check your pay stubs?
Yes. All of
But
that.
if you're self-employed though,
right? So I wasn't self-employed. I was with the big company.
maybe they want you to
That's
see like
probably a different
taxes or something
process.
like that.
Yeah, possibly
Anyway.
taxes, your income. But yeah, but I
Look at
think
me,
it's
I'm really planning this out. I'm like, yeah.
like, let me go ahead and apply. It's like, but no, seriously though, like, I'm trying to think. I think it's a problem with the system necessarily, because they should be making that money already. Because it is sad, because it's like they don't want to go back to work. It's like now I'm making a livable wage on unemployment. So why should I go back to work when I was barely making ends meet? With that little $12, $13 y'all was trying to give me.
But that unemployment ain't gonna last forever. Though.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's
but
not.
Milk it while you can, because they be milking you. Okay?
Oh yeah, they gonna milk you.
Just saying.
All right. That's enough of our ranting and raving. Hope everyone's doing well. But let's jump into who Dr. Shaakira Stewart is before we jump into Melanin Message.
Okay, let's do it.
So, you guys, if you didn't know, if you don't follow us on Instagram, why exactly? Melanin Voices podcast.
First,
that's first. Numero uno. We've already announced that we already did the podcast episode, and we had some technical difficulties that led us to have to re-record. So we know about Dr. Shaakira Stewart, but y'all should know about her. So if I'm like, okay, girl, I'm still hyping her up. So, that's just a little background. But for those who don't know who you are and where you practice, if you could describe yourself in a sentence or two, who would you say Dr. Shaakira Stewart is?
As a therapist or as a person? Because I feel like
as a person first.
Right.
That's who we care about.
Okay. As a person first, I would describe myself as goofy, bubbly, an overthinker at times, but also like super positive, and it's like, girl, it's gonna be all right. Like, like I'm always thinking of like the positive spin on things, which could be annoying at times.
I'm sure, but still, it's so nice to have that friend.
Yeah,
I'm that person. If you want to hear something positive, like, I'm your girl.
We need that.
And then I think as a therapist, I think I'm probably less positive and more optimistic, but silently, if that makes sense. Because I don't really like hold that optimism. Like I hold it for my clients, but it's not necessarily like the forefront of things. Whereas like in my friendships and personal life, I'm like super positive, know everything's going to work out, have a lot of faith. Whereas in therapy, it's a little bit different. And then I feel like I'm still myself though. Like I'm still goofy, still bubbly. Like I will crack jokes, like I will curse, like I will do all these things really like of who I am. So I think as a therapist, you'll really see me more or less than like a rigid therapy person, like I dress, I'll wear sneakers, I will wear this to therapy. So, but they can't see that. So,
she got on a cute ass moo-moo.
Comfortable, super cute,
blue, white. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, definitely cute with earrings.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna wear these earrings also. But yeah, so that I think that's really who I am in therapy. I don't know. Yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't really thought about that.
Do you think your friends come to you for advice more that you're like a therapist, or you think it's like the same?
I think it's the same, to be honest. I feel like I'm that helper person, and I'm that person that people come to for advice. And I think maybe now, maybe a little bit less advice, because they're like, she got a baby. I don't want to like,
she got a husband.
I want to stress her out with all my problems, But then also on the flip side, I do feel like some of my friends maybe lean on me a little bit more because there are a lot of things that they want to have advice on, like parenting or like maybe becoming a parent one day, and relationship stuff. So I feel like there's certain things in my life that have led me to have people seek more advice from. If that makes sense.
That's good.
So they're coming to you for more stuff now. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
they don't
you
always
got a
come to me.
baby. Okay.
Which is a blessing that people can. I was watching this YouTube video the other day, and it was like this guy was saying how he was always like frustrated. I don't know if you guys know Funky Dineva. He's so funny. But he was saying how he's always used to be irritated or upset that people in his life needed him for help, whether it be financial or just any kind of support. And he was like, it's a blessing now to be a blessing, pretty much.
Amen.
Like,
Right.
so
That's so
take
crazy
spit
that
on
you
it.
said that. When I went to
You should have
the very first like psychology conference I've ever been to, this was maybe in like 2013 or 2014. There was like this huge mural, and all the psychologists that came to the conference, like these are like world renowned psychologists, like psychiatrists, like all the top people in the US and maybe even the world at this conference. And I remember like we had to like write something like a quote or like an art picture or whatever. And I said, like, if you are a blessing, why not be a blessing to others? And I put Dr. Shaakira Haywood. And I wasn't even a doctor then. Like it was like I wasn't even in grad school at the time. So that's so funny that you said that quote. So I really do try to live by that.
That is so true though, because I don't know, I guess when you ask that question, like, do you feel like your friends come to you more that you're, a therapist now? Girl, if you don't get the fuck away from me. I found that so interesting because if you all don't know, I had my best friend on the show, Jasmine Markiva Peters. She's on the episode. Don't email me, shameless plug. But I had her on, and I remember when we were speaking a couple weeks after that, I honestly don't go to Jasmine for much. And that's why I feel like I don't go to her for much, because she is a therapist and she deals with so much. And she has so many like different clients and things like that. And I know it could be overwhelming. And she has her own shit to deal with, obviously. She's a person too. So I take that into account. So I don't really tell her much or anything like that. And sometimes I feel like, well, not sometimes, I feel like she has told me that sometimes she feels as though I hold back or I don't say things to her. I don't open up as much with her. And I think that I can work on as a friend, just because I just like, I don't want to overextend her by, girl, you just got out of the session. Now let me lay this on you. You know what I mean? Or let me catch you up to speed with what I'm going through. I know that really bothered her, but also I think that from my side of things, I was like, well, I don't want to lay it on you thick.
True. But I feel like, obviously, I'm like, I'm not going to be like Jasmine's side, but I feel like I have had people act like that to me too. Like they're like, okay, so sorry for ranting. Oh my God, so sorry. And I'm like, girl, you literally just made one complaint about life for like 5 minutes, like 3 text message exchanges. Like, girl, it is fine. You know what I mean? And I feel like things that really work out, like any relationship, the best relationships are ones that are equally yoked. And so I feel like that's when you're able to be equally transparent, I feel like that's like when it's the best. So at least for me, I feel like I be pulling for my friends to tell me certain things sometimes, because it's like, girl, like, let me be there for you just like how you be there for me.
That's fair. Just make sure that's like give and take kind of relationship. So as a mommy and a therapist and a wife, like all these different hats you're wearing, how do you take time for your own mental health? Like, how do you do that? Prioritize you.
Yeah, I think the first thing is like therapy. So I'm not in therapy currently, but I was pretty much like up until I was like 34 weeks pregnant, like right before like I gave birth. So and then, since then, and that's been probably like the number one thing I feel like that's been able to help me organize my thoughts as I am juggling so many relationships, because it's like so many relationships in my life, so many roles in my life. And so I feel like that has been like the core thing that's helped my mental health. And I'm always going to say like that's the number one thing for anybody is like, go to therapy. Like that's going to be your number one tool and resource. And then I think just the basic stuff like exercising. Like I used to play like college athletics, so I know that being able to like run and get out some of that energy is really important. Drinking water, basic, going outside, like all those things I try to like make sure. And then when I'm like feeling anxious, I like do a mental check, like, okay, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? No, you forgot that. Okay, so that's where you need to like do this or that.
Yeah.
Dang.
I thought you were gonna ask a question.
Oh yeah.
I knew you were gonna. I thought I don't want to take your spotlight, friend.
No, you ain't taking my spotlight. Did you have a what?
What are you trying to say,
I don't know.
No, I'll ask so you can get your thoughts together. Go ahead. So, like, what are some techniques or things that you found that have been helpful being a new mom? Like
getting alone
in
time.
parenting or all that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. When you asked that first question, I was like, dang, I didn't talk about like getting alone time as like something that's been really helpful for my mental health. Because I never thought I needed that before until like now. And I think that's probably the single best thing. And then prayer, to be honest. Like I feel like so many things are out of your control. Like you can control your body and your movements and things, but like babies don't know anything and anything could happen, you know what I'm saying? So like in order to like combat some of that anxiety is like making sure I'm being like stayed up in prayer, to be honest. And then yeah, like what did I just say? What was the first thing I said?
Alone time.
Yes, alone time.
Yeah.
See, it's important because if you don't, you'd be like, what did I just say? Yes, alone time. Like pre-pandemic, like I made sure I like got out and like got my nails done, like walked my dog, like just different stuff like that. So it's a little bit harder now to get alone time.
Yeah.
But it's really important, I think, for me.
What would you say to the parent who's like in quarantine with their kid right now, and they can't necessarily get that alone time per se? Like they may not have a partner, or their partner is trash. What would you?
Right. All possibilities.
Right. All ends of the spectrum.
Certainly.
I think like still trying to get that alone time in whatever way it is. Like when the kids go to sleep, like even if you just take like 10 minutes, 30 minutes to do something for yourself that day, or you wake up early, like maybe you're an early person. I'm not, but some people are. Like being able to get up before your kids get up and do like have 30 minutes to yourself, and even just like going on a walk, you know what I mean? I feel like that brings gratitude and still some type of like alone time in that way. Like as your kids are running off or they're in the stroller or whatever, like you still get a chance to reflect and have some like internal silence for a little bit.
Exactly.
Yes, it seems like that's hard to do when you're a parent and you're like during the day.
Man,
because I feel like I realize that I'm like one of those people. If my mom's like in the bathroom on the toilet, I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, you want to talk?
Oh, you was that kid.
Oh my God, mad annoying.
I don't know. It's not on purpose. It's just like that's the perfect time to just.
No,
it's not the perfect
you
time.
Have kids, y'all ain't gonna pay your ass back.
I ain't even gonna care. I'm gonna be like, yeah, sit right
there. They'll be like, go ahead, sit on mommy's lap. Like, if you don't get out of here.
You say that now. Contact me later. Let me know.
Right.
Let me know. So great. We're gonna sit on the toilet together. Like we're gonna.
And you're gonna be hiding from them. You're gonna be hiding.
You're gonna lock the door.
That's what they say.
I'm gonna start thinking of my hiding spot now.
Yeah, go ahead. Probably the laundry room. Kids don't go in there.
So, as a therapist, have you ever had a session that you took home and like couldn't like let go of, or couldn't stop thinking about, or like even like held it in your body?
Maybe not necessarily like held it in my body, but definitely like ruminating thoughts, like worrying about them, like especially clients who are like on that suicidal verge. I had clients who were on the homicidal verge, and that was like a whole nother level of anxiety.
Like they man or somebody else? Because I feel like it's normal if you feel like you want to kill your man.
Oh no, this was a person that wanted to kill like multiple people. Like
wow, that's deep.
Yeah. But you know, we worked it out. So I hope. I haven't seen this client in a minute. So
Well, hopefully,
they over there with
yeah.
y'all. So
Oh, come get him.
Come get them.
uh but
That's
yeah, I
not
feel like those clients, it's like hard because it's like so much out of your control. You know what I mean? And then I think another type of client is like trauma clients. Like when they reveal trauma to me, I'm just like, damn, like I really think about that. So yeah, no, I definitely have taken stuff home with me for sure.
Mm.
I mean, sometimes I feel bad when I'm like being so, because I feel like my therapist, there's no buffer there. Like if my friends, I try to like not tell them certain things, especially when I'm like especially if I'm having those thoughts of like, suicide or whatever. I feel like I try to like limit that because I know like it's easy for a person to take that on. So sometimes like if I express those thoughts to my therapist, I feel bad about it. Like I apologize for dumping on my therapist. Isn't that stupid? Like that's their job, literally.
Yeah.
Hmm. I was
I don't think
listening
it's
to
stupid,
another
but it's,
podcast
just
yesterday, and they were talking about how like they had like a listener question, and it was like, I really don't want to like dump my issues on somebody else. Like,
was it the read?
it was it the read? Of course, it was the read. And I was like listening, and I was like, no, that's the fucking point. Like, you're supposed to like dump all of your issues. Like, that's what I get paid for. Like, honestly, like I get bored with certain clients, so it's like, don't be like, no, nothing, no, because then I'm gonna just be like, okay, so
Girl,
what are we
you wasting
doing?
your money, yeah.
Honestly, you know what I mean? And I mean, certain therapists,
Bet.
like I'm a type of person that I'm very transparent. If I feel like you're holding back or whatever, like as much as it pains me to, okay, that's a good, okay, so in reality or in my
Mhm.
real personal self, I'm more held back, more reserved. As a therapist, I've been pushed to be more assertive,
Mm.
meaning like, if I hear something, I'm like, no, that's kind of like BS, or like, no, like, I've been pushed to like and trained to be like, no, like, I think you're bullshitting me. Actually, tell me a little bit more. And that's just that's my style of therapy. And that's like what I've been trained to do. Like, there's a lot of different styles of therapy and things like that, but that's sort of my um, clinical like perspective. And so in real life, I'm more, less assertive. And in therapy, I'm like, nah, you gonna tell me what's wrong and we gonna get to this.
I mean, I'm rethinking everything because I feel like I be holding back. Not I don't intentionally hold back, but like Una was saying, that thought of like, I don't want to dump on you, and it's like, but like you're here to grow. You can't grow. I don't even know what you're going through to help you grow, and
Yeah.
I like literally remember
exactly.
myself saying like, I'm sorry if this is too much. And then I would be like, wow, what
Mhm.
the fuck?
Right.
I'm sorry if this is too
Mhm.
much for you.
But see, it's so interesting. Like as you're talking about this, I'm like switch to therapy mode. I'm like, is it too much for the therapist or is it too much for you?
Shit, it might be
Both.
both.
You know what I'm
Shit.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
and that's like a question that I would ask. Like when someone's like, sorry, it's too much. And I'm like, are you really apologizing to me or are you apologizing to yourself? Like for being able to like say all of this, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you know how we learn from therapists and they teach us new ways and techniques to deal with our anxiety or depression or multiple things. Is there anything that you learned from your clients?
Oh, I've learned a lot of stuff. I think
Mm.
that's maybe the thing. Therapy, it's the gift that keeps on giving. um, honestly, I feel like I want to learn to share that more with my clients. I think I always wait to the very end where like we're about to leave or there's like some sort of transition, and then I like tell them all the things that I've learned from them or all these positive things, but I really want to challenge myself as a therapist to really be open and transparent about those moments, because I think that's helpful for the client. And so for me, like whether it's like food places to eat, like new stuff, especially because I work with like younger adults, it's like always keeping me up on like new things. So I feel like I learn from the small things even to like the large things. Like as I'm talking to clients about being more assertive, um, like I found myself like learning from them, like the things that I'm teaching them about being assertive and being like, okay, so when you have your friend, like do this, 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 and this, and X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, dang, like I low-key should be doing that.
You're like, for real.
It's so easy to give advice, but you don't even be taking your own shit sometimes.
Oh, girl, that's me all the time. That's literally a walking me. Yeah.
And that's why I don't trust therapists that don't go to therapy. I just cannot do it, because it's like, if you aren't open to receiving anything, I can't receive anything from you.
Right.
That's good.
It's like
good.
practice what you preach kind of thing.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's like going to a surgeon who's like, oh, I wouldn't do it though, but
I would
you could do
never
it.
do. Oh, okay, well, this is kind of awkward because what do you mean? Yeah, I think that's actually a great way of looking at things.
That's like nurses who smoke cigarettes, huh? Doctors who smoke cigarettes.
Well, I know somebody who does.
It's like the same
My
thing.
Mama.
That's crazy.
But we're not going to talk about her today.
We definitely not going to talk about my mama.
Nah.
But yeah, I think that when this and even speaking of that's off topic. We'll talk about that later. It's funny how like doctors and stuff like that were told back in the 50s that smoking cigarettes would make you healthy. That's a whole other conversation.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
I learned in my media class in college that back in the 50s, that's why they smoked cigarettes, because at the point in time it was advertised that cigarettes made you healthier.
Wow.
I mean,
that's crazy.
About a couple, like 20, maybe 15 years later, they found out scientific studies that was incorrect information. But by that time, people were already smoking, and it's kind of hard to like take the stick out their hand. What? Oh, you looked at me like, what the hell? Was that what the hell? Yeah. So that's weird. I never knew that, but yeah, that's why people in the 50s were like big on smoking, seen as healthy back then. Not that my mom was born in the 50s, so this doesn't relate.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think she was born in the 50s.
You're like, so how was your mama?
Right.
She was born in the 70s.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Residual
70s
information.
Baby. Yeah. But this week we had, we are done with Melanin Message for the week. We're transitioning over to Convos with Mariah. And this is a part of this episode where I get questions from you all about the guests that you want to have answered. And we had a couple of messages from everyone that wanted some questions answered from you. So I'll go ahead and start. We have an anonymous one. And as I was saying, I was like extremely happy. Don't touch me if I may cry. But I was really happy that...
Okay, go ahead.
I was really happy that this person reached out to Una and I on our Melanin Voices DM to say, you know, hey girl, wasn't comfortable with writing it in the replies, but I felt comfortable enough to reach out to you guys personally and ask to have this question answered. That's my business though, but have my question answered because like we were creating a space for those who, you know, need it. That's literally what we're here for. So I thought that was cool that is manifesting, coming to life, and it's being shown through you guys. So thank you for trusting us with your ideas and your personal lives. Because we trust y'all with our personal life. We be talking all our shit on here. Man. So I'm just saying. But Anonymous says, I love that your next podcast is surrounding mothers and mental health. I wanted to comment, but I didn't want all my business out there like that. So I would love to pose a question regarding motherhood and mental illness. I've been a full-time auntie for the majority of my 9-year-old niece's life, and as one recently, my 4-year-old nephew as well. Sorry, I hope I didn't jumble that. Their mother mentally has had a hard time for a majority of reasons, and it's been tough navigating conversations around that. I would be curious to know, 1, ways that I can support my sister while still trying to be mindful of 2 children and manage my own mental health, and 2, what conversations can I have with my niece and my nephew about mental health that allow them to not only understand, but learn to cope and allow them the space to talk openly about it without stigmatizing them?
So I think the first would be, okay, so the first one is...
I'll read the first one again.
Sorry, I was about to answer the second one. But
no, it's a lot of questions in one, really. But ways I can support my sister while still trying to be mindful of 2 children and manage my own mental health.
Okay, so I think the first thing is to manage your own mental health first, because you can't help anybody if you can't help yourself. And then I think by asking them what they need support with, you know what I mean? Like I can sit here and say like, oh, well, this person might need this or that or that. But like honestly, I feel like it really just depends on like what is it that they need? You know what I mean? And I feel like it's all
Right.
different, especially with a mom. You know, their support might be like, I need you to come over and cook a dinner for me. Like let me like get some time to myself because this person has 2 kids. Like I have one and I'm like, I cannot even think about what having 2 kids is like, you know? So just asking
Right.
them how you can support them, you know, it could be so many different things. It could be helping them out. It could be um even just like watching their kids while they go to therapy, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many different things that I think it's important to ask them first. And then I think just allowing them the time to like come to you, you know, I think would be really
Mm-hmm.
helpful. So yeah, I don't know. My heart goes out to this person and you know their sister, especially like with mental health. I think a lot about people. The way that I think about therapy is a lot of relationships and family stuff and past stuff. And there's just so many things that it's so hard, I think, to maneuver life, especially when you have someone in your family that struggles with mental health, whether it be a parent, a sibling, um, you know, a grandparent, something like that. I feel like it affects all of us, and it's just hard to navigate certain relationships because, yeah, life is all about relationships.
I agree. I think it's even harder when the people that have the mental health issues don't want to get help or don't want to seek help.
Right.
Especially in the Black community, I know that we are more open to now. Our generation, anyways, the millennial generation in the Black
Mhm.
community is more open to therapy, whereas the older generation, not so much.
No,
In
not at
my
all.
experience, they're like, go to church and pray about it. And it's like,
Well,
well,
even
God
in
gave
the
his
last
therapist, so
year, I mean, like honestly, when I started getting my like degree, I felt like when I graduated high school and when I started like going to college and stuff, like it was still kind of like, oh, you're gonna be a psychologist. Like, you know, like,
that's what's up.
oh, like you're gonna help white people and their white problems. You know what I mean? Like getting jokes like that. And
Right.
I feel like it hasn't been until the last honestly, maybe like 3 years, like max, that mental health has really been okay, possibly
Mhm.
in the Black community.
Mhm.
Or really any community of color.
Yeah, I feel like Black people are like, you need to, you need to see a therapist. You need to see a therapist.
Mhm.
Have you seen that episode? It's on Zeus Network with Black China and her mother, and she's like antagonizing her. She's like, you need to see a therapist. You need to see a
Mm-mm. But see, and that's wrong
And
because it's
it's
like
not funny, but it was funny that she was like making it a bad thing. Like, okay, I do need to see a therapist because you're fucking terrible mother that's messing me up in my head. Is I'm fucked up because of you.
right.
Actually, you're right. I do need to see a therapist. Correct. I
Mhm.
just thought that was crazy.
But it is, you know, I feel like, yeah, you just gotta like seeing therapy shouldn't be like, yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm having a lot of thoughts right now because of that
No,
comment.
you're
Because I feel
fine.
like there's a lot of things that are like condescending when people say stuff like that.
Definitely
And but yeah, but for this listener specifically, I feel like, yeah,
asking them
asking them what they need support with and yeah, whether it's
and
like,
take care of yourself first.
yeah, and taking care of themselves first. So
Her second one was, what conversations can I have with my niece and nephew about mental health that would allow them to not only understand but learn to cope and allow them to the space to talk openly about it without
mm,
stigmatizing them?
I think so. I don't know any books offhand, but I think being able to talk about mental health using like books and stories and things like that, I think would be really helpful. And I don't know if it's comfortable or if it's like open with the kids, like if they know that their mom struggles with mental health or not. But I feel like that the aunt can really be helpful in providing a safe space for them to like talk about, you know, some of the feelings that they're dealing with because they notice stuff, you know what I mean? And to be able to talk to them early and have an outlet now, and then talk about like, yeah, your mom handles things this way and maybe you could try it this way, different things like that, I think would be really helpful for them to learn, especially if you're talking about nephew. Like we need to get them learning about feelings and emotions and
Right.
vulnerability, and it's okay, you know, from
I'm
jump.
That's good.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate right quick
Okay,
on this
okay,
Oh
question.
okay.
gosh.
Do you do you think that speaking to like as a parent, you know, Do you think that it would be crossing a boundary for someone else to talk to your kids about um, maybe you in particular and what your
Mm-hmm.
mental health is? I mean, mental health issue is. I get like talking to them about mental health, as a whole. But do you think it
Right.
would be crossing the line to be like, this is what your mom has, and this is what you need to know about it?
Mm.
Good question, actually.
That's
I just
such a
want to.
good
I just want to know.
question. Well,
Hmm.
I guess I'm like envisioning this person to have like a sibling with like significant mental health struggles. You know what I mean?
Right. We don't
Um,
know the severity of it.
yeah. And so I feel like with that, then yeah, they do need somebody. You know what I mean? But if it's not, um, I don't know. I think it's important for them to have an outlet. And maybe you don't say everything like, "Yo, mama crazy girl. She got this. She take
Right, right, right.
this."
Because they're gonna go be like, Auntie said you had. Like,
Exactly. But if it's
and
more
she
of
gonna
like
be
a
like, you need to tell your
psychoeducation,
auntie to mind her business.
Right.
and then it's gonna be a whole nother problem. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
Hmm.
We
But
got
if
more
it's
problems.
psychoeducational and supportive, I think that's probably really good for them to have an outlet because trust me, those kids see everything and they need somebody to talk to. You know what I mean? Especially, I don't
Right.
know if this is like a single parent home or not, but to have that stable person is really important in their life.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to ask your question that your anonymous listener had, or I
Of
can go ahead into mine?
course. Yes.
I'll ask a question while you pull that up.
I gotta pull it up. I feel like I
Oh,
want
go
to give
ahead,
her
friend.
like a pseudonym, but
Oh yeah, like the Reed does. I had to give it. I should have gave my anonymous one a
Oh,
real
not his
cute
name.
name. Damn, damn. We don't be getting questions like that. But go
I
ahead.
don't know.
Give
I
her.
can't think of anything.
Oh, you know what I like for girls? Ryan. I love the name Ryan. Like,
Okay, we'll call her Ryan.
Yes.
So this is what Ryan
Future
said.
baby name.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. How, her question is, how do you deal with postpartum and being/feeling alone? For example, I thought my girlfriends would be around after I had the baby, but I seen them when he was born, maybe once within the year and at his birthday. I felt more alone than ever, and no one went out of their way to visit me after the initial birth. How do you cope with that grief? Oh wait.
Mm,
Okay, plus being focused on being a mom, which is
A lot.
yeah.
yeah.
Second question. Well, I'll let you talk about
Yes.
that first one.
Okay. I think for me, like dealing with postpartum and stuff, like I don't know where this reader listener, like how long they've been struggling with it for. But I feel like for me, what's been really helpful is having like other moms to talk to. And it sounds like this person doesn't have, support. And so I feel like if you don't have any support, like you need to find it, you know what I mean? Because postpartum is real, and I feel like you owe it to yourself and your kid to be the best parent that you can be. So I think for me, like it's like I'm thankful that I had support. Another plug, like I made sure I was up on my vitamins, like taking like my multivitamin and iron and vitamin D. All these things are really helpful to like stabilize your postpartum hormones and everything. So I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
was really helpful for me. But and then also having support, like having a few friends that were already mommies. But it's just disheartening to hear that this person doesn't have a lot of support. And so I think if you can't find support in your friends, like you got to find support, whether it's a therapist, whether it's your own mom. I don't know how that relationship is or if that person is still present. But just some other sort of figure to lean on, because that kid is leaning on you hard and you just don't want to
Mm-hmm.
fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Brian's kid is a toddler, so still
Mm,
pretty young. Second
yeah.
question is how to deal with people who don't know or understand postpartum depression, along with people who dismiss it and tell you you're just being weak. You're not the first mom, and other moms have dealt with XYZ. Um, yeah,
Mm,
so it seems like she said feeling abandoned and feeling like no one takes my PPD seriously.
mm. And
Yeah.
that's a tough place to be in because it's like whether it's postpartum, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, like anything around mental health, some people just don't want to take it seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially within communities of colors. It's like, well, you just need to pray about it. You just need to do this. You need to do that. It's not real. That's just the devil. X, Y, and Z. And so I feel like there's got to be a piece where you just give that some education, and then the rest you got to let go, because that's not on them to take you seriously or to to understand everything that you're going through. It would be helpful, but you know, some people just are not going to get it. And so I feel like,
Right.
especially with postpartum, it's not only just um like, oh, like baby blues and stuff like that. It's really a lot of like hormonal balances. It's like the best way I explain it is like, okay, so think about your period. You know how you be moody? You know how you be
Yes, bug.
cranky? It'd be like that the whole time. Plus, you already
Mhm.
tired because you were running on like 2-3 hours of sleep. Plus, you're feeding, you're possibly nursing, like someone is using and taking pieces of you like all day, you know. And so, just finding different ways to explain it to people, I think, is helpful. But you don't want to exhaust yourself because then you're like reaching past the point where you're like just evoking more stress in your life, more depressive
Right.
thoughts in your life that people don't understand.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what you said earlier about like kind of like practice what you preach, kind of. So you wouldn't go to someone who doesn't take their mental health seriously to talk about your mental health.
Right,
Right.
right.
So if they're not taking it seriously for them, then
Why would
don't
they take it
expect
serious for
them to
you?
take it serious for you.
hmm
That's a good way.
And you
to
need people that care. Like I would look online, like find a really reputable article about postpartum that really like talks about it in a way that you feel is the best way. And then when somebody got something to say, just be like, I'm going to send you something to read. Like if you care about me in any way, like you can read it. But it's on you. You know what I mean? That's sort of the
Right.
subtle way of like saying like I've tried to explain myself and like this is sort of the last little piece and it's on you. Like it's not on me to make you understand something.
Yeah,
That's
and it's a
good.
good thing that we kind of live in the social media era as well, because there's a lot of mommy groups for that
Oh
kind of
yeah,
thing too.
definitely.
Especially
Yes,
on Facebook.
yes.
So I would give
Facebook
that
is
as a
like
resource as well.
huge, huge, huge. I haven't joined a Facebook group, but that's like the first thing I heard like when I became pregnant was like there's so many groups on Facebook. And when outside opened back up, I'm definitely gonna take advantage of like social
Meetups.
media group, yeah, meetups, like even activities and stuff with my little one to like meet other moms in the area because I don't
Yeah,
think I really know that many in New York to be honest. So
having mom
We
friends.
have a mommy
I
friend in New York. Her name is Michelle,
no
and she
way.
lives in Yonkers, and she's like a mom that does everything.
she's super
Event
mom.
planning, 9 to 5, wife, all this stuff. So it'd be cool to connect with her. I'll give you her contact.
Mhm. It's like give it
She's
to me
in New
right
York.
now in the podcast.
She's like, girl, let me get on my
Right.
Right.
let me get on my damn content. People on the podcast.
Her number is 555.
521. Say no.
39.
Just kidding. We got some questions from our dear friends Angel and Jasmine. Thank you so much.
Hey y'all.
Mhm.
And I'm going to ask you some of them.
Okay.
So Jasmine's question was, what are the challenges of motherhood that most people don't talk about?
Okay. I think there's a lot of physical challenges, and then I think there's a lot of emotional challenges. So there's a lot of physical stuff that I just didn't know happened. Like it's so crazy that you talk about Jasmine. I also know Jasmine, like shameless plug and disclosure. But like Jasmine would ask me, like, oh my gosh, like what's something that you're dealing with that like nobody talks about or whatever. And I was like, girl, I got
She's so
She loves that question.
She's literally
Is that
so
her
weird.
favorite
No,
question?
she's just like always like I feel like as a kid she probably was that kid that was like always asking like, so how does that like that's
honestly,
Go ahead.
like she actually got me a book that says like the shit that people don't talk to you about when you're pregnant.
Aw. Oh,
And
that's sweet.
that was like the
is sweet.
sweetest gift. And that's honestly like a representation of how she's asked this question. So she'll say like, so, you know, tell me like all the dirty stuff, like, let me know. And like the first thing I was like, girl, I got hemorrhoids. I was like, ain't nobody ever talk about that.
Oh no. Is that painful? Because you got to put a little cream back there.
Hell yeah, that shit hurt.
On your little booty hole.
Yes. And you don't think about it because there's so much pressure. Like you have like people get hemorrhoids with just like regular strainage, you know what I'm saying? But like to push a whole 8-pound baby out, like that's a lot of strainage, you know what I'm saying? So like it's just a lot of healing down there. Like it's not only the front part, but it's the back part. And it's just a lot of stuff going on. So I didn't know anything about that. and just a lot of like that physical recovery. It's like your body's going through a trauma. So I feel like I just wasn't prepared or expecting that. Like I just thought you like push your baby out and then you're happy and you go home with your baby and you're like, yeah. And then you have a hot body, like all these people on Instagram, you know what I mean? That's what I thought happened.
Snapback thing is like so false. Like I feel like the people who snap back fast, one are like hella active already, like an active, like they're hella athletic. They're always like doing the most.
That's their body type.
Exactly. And they were probably super athletic during the pregnancy. And then like afterwards they were super athletic, you know what I mean? So it was just easier to migrate or surgery or 3,
surgery.
They have the access to like a chef and a personal trainer. They have the access to those things regular moms do not have access to.
Exactly. And I feel like that's my biggest struggle too. Like on top of all of the physical stuff initially with birth, I feel like that's where I'm struggling at now because thankfully, and I'm like, you know, like I'm not trying to be like, oh, like a bragger person, but I never had body image issues until now. Because my body is completely different. And so I used to never really, like I automatically worked out, like I was already an athlete. So just by proxy of that, I was already in shape. But post baby, I was like, dang, like, so like, I'm just going to stare at my body like all day. Like there's just so many things that I wasn't familiar with about my body that I didn't think that I would dislike it. Post baby in the way that I do because everybody like, girl, you gonna snap back, like you gonna do this, it's gonna be easy, and it's not easy. So yeah, that's definitely something I've been struggling with.
So what do you like?
Wait, hold on. I had a question, a follow-up question.
Okay.
Well, not a question, but like a story. I remember you were saying like how you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna go home with this baby, and be happy. I know my mom was all like, she hates seeing when they like throw the baby on you right out the womb. She was like, I was like, don't put that fucking baby on me right now. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Like, please take the baby so I can just have some like downtime. I don't know. She was just saying how she loved the skin contact, but like she's just like, I don't know. I think she was saying basically as a result, like it's traumatic as fuck. It's super traumatic.
Yeah, it's just overwhelming. It's like, let me just let me get some
much
water. You know what I'm saying?
Let me just breathe. Yeah, and some water. I'll take a glass of water. Yeah. But go ahead, friend. I cut you off during your.
What was your question?
I didn't say that. I said never mind. I have a question. I have like a story to tell. Okay. If your ass was listening.
My bad. Some moms do like that. Some moms don't want you to take their baby away. Some moms,
so they want you to just, put them, pop it right on them.
Right, and just leave me with my baby. Please.
All moms are different.
Yeah, definitely.
And I wanted skin to skin, but he immediately had to go to the NICU because he wasn't breathing. And so like when he came out, he didn't cry. So they put him on me, and like then all these nurses were like trying to like get him to breathe, and they like took him away, and I was like, no way.
Right.
So that was also traumatic. Not only did I push the whole baby out, but then I was like, wait, what are you doing with my baby?
Right. Dang.
Black stuff, black issues.
Right. Right. I was gonna ask you, what as a therapist or not, whatever, what would you say to those people who have those body image issues, especially like after having a baby? Because I feel like there's very little that you can do right after you have a baby to like change the way that your body looks, or even change the way that your body reacts, because you may be able to work out and get rid of the stomach, but you may not be able to, immediately get rid of the stress marks, or, you can't work out because you, after you have a baby, your organs and stuff is like, there's no like cap on it per se. It's like having a toothpaste thing without the cap on. So if you do a lot of moving around, you can easily get like uterine prolapse, which is not good. It sucks. So what advice do you have, what advice do you have to those people who have those body image issues and like can't do anything about it right there?
Yeah. I feel like that's a hard question for me to fully answer because I'm still in it, you know what I mean? But what's been helpful for me is to know that like this isn't like the end, you know what I mean? Like today isn't what my body's gonna look like tomorrow, or even like the next day or next year or in 3 years, you know what I mean? And to know that it's like I'm just striving for progress and not perfection. And so, you know, like even before pre-baby, it wasn't like I was like, yes, like body is absolutely perfect. Like we all are like, well, this could be a little bit bigger, this could be a little bit smaller, like this could be this, you know. And so just knowing that my body was never perfect and it never will be perfect, but it'll be healthy. And I think that's the most important. So yeah, I just feel like just knowing that like it's going to be, you will have the body that you want, and it might not be tomorrow, but if you work towards it when you're like finished healing and all that other stuff, like you'll be fine. And I will say also, like, I think my workout journey like is also like was mental, and I always think about that too. Like I think about psychologically when I'm thinking about clients and stuff that do have body issues, I think a lot of it of like self-deprecating or self-harm in a way. And so it's like a real deep psychological thing. But if you think about like cutting yourself and things like that, like you're hurting and putting harm on yourself. It's the same thing about like body issues and things like that, whether it's like anorexia or bulimia or even just like overeating and things like that, like that's like putting harm on yourself in a way that's visible to people. So I'm not going to get too deep about that, but I know for me personally, like when I started working out, it was very like mental for me. It was like, okay, like I'm mentally ready to work out. Like I want to be better and feel better and not just be like in a slump of like, well, I'm a new mom, like I'm just gonna like do what I can. Like no, like I'm a new mom and I'm me still too. And I feel like when I had that transition, it was easy to work out.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yes, definitely.
I feel like these questions get so deep. It's like
I know we're just like, well, let's let it sit. Right. Yeah, you literally have to let it marinate. I feel like I'm in a little poetry joint. Angel said, she had a few questions, but I'm gonna ask one of them.
Okay.
How can Black parents cope with the feelings of stress that may arise when thinking about how to have to talk with their Black sons and daughters? And when we recorded last time, we were like, knowing Angel, this is probably the talk is about race versus like sex. I'm assuming it's about race, so we'll just say the talk is about race.
Yeah. I haven't thought about the talk, but I know I have to have it. And I feel like it's not going to be just one talk, but like series of talks. And I think that's where like I'll manage my anxiety, because I feel like if I put pressure on it, this one conversation, this one time, this one thing, like I feel like that leaves room for like anxiety to really come in. And so if it's several conversations, several teaching points, like if it's just really infused in my parenting style, I feel like that's the best that I can do, you know, and just let God do the rest at the end of the day.
That's true. But I'm like, dang, I kind of want to know about the. Well, how can parents have the sex talk with their kids?
The same way. Yeah, the same way. And to be open, you know what I mean? To not be like, so you got this part, you got this part, you got to stick it, like, you know what I mean? Like, to be mortified. Like, it reminds me of Love Don't Cost a Thing with Nick Cannon.
Steve Harvey.
Yeah. Like, not like that. But I think more open in terms of like gender and sexuality and different types of sex too, you know, oral or, you know, physical, all these other things. So I think it's just really important to just be open, but also like have your limits. Like if you don't want to talk about something, like you're like, okay, you're getting a little too open. Like you should be able to like set that boundary for yourself as a parent too.
Okay. So as we all know, one of my favorite shows is Insecure, probably the most favorite show right now at this time. And in this season, you can see a lot more of Kelly's story, which is the friend who's recently just had a baby. And she kind of like hints at having postpartum depression. Like she'll say little things that...
Wait, no, Tiffany,
or
right?
she'll even... It's Tiffany, not Kelly, sorry. Kelly is my favorite. But Tiffany just had a child with her husband, and she hints at postpartum depression, and she'll say little things, and not only just postpartum depression, but also like she just talks about like giving birth as a Black woman and how the experience was traumatic for her, how they didn't really believe her pain and her experience that she was going through. How was your experience giving birth to Golden?
I feel like I've experienced all of those things, like a lot of pain, sort of like not necessarily the accurate pain management, I would say, or pain bereavement, I would say. Um, I think things turned and I was really thankful and really, really blessed when someone stepped in that I had a mutual connection with. So a friend that one of like my bridesmaids, one of my closest friends, her sister is a gyno and her best friend is a gyno in New York at the hospital that I gave birth at.
That's
And
amazing.
she wasn't on duty until like almost pretty much right before I was about to push. And so I can see how, or I experience where certain care professionals are different with people of color than they might be with another person, you know? And so saying that I was in pain, trying to get pain, like management, was difficult. I think, um, even just like certain care, you know what I mean? Like being like, ow, like that hurts, or like, oh, like, you know, moving me in ways where I was like, no, that actually hurts, you know what I mean? And being like kind of forceful and not necessarily listening to me. So it was really a lot of silencing, a lot of dismissing. Like I didn't really have a lot of control over my own body. Like I didn't know, like I wasn't educated or things like that, to know what was right or wrong or what I wanted and things like that. So I'm really, really thankful that things turned around. But I couldn't imagine how things would be, you know, towards the end. Um,
Mm.
and even after giving birth, like stitches and all of that, like I didn't know that I was supposed to get pain, like a numbing shot, when they like stitch you up. And like my person, like she just already had like attitude and like didn't give me anything. And so like it was just like pure pain, like when I was like
Mm.
getting stitches.
Oh no.
Yeah, I went to
God.
a birth, one of my first births. She didn't have any she didn't get any anesthesia when she got her stitches after she had her baby. But so it's like optional, but it's like you're not giving me the option to refuse it if I want, you know, that you're not
Right.
giving me the option, which is definitely unfair. Um so thank you for sharing your birth story with us, because
Absolutely.
I know that sometimes, you know, you have, maybe you haven't processed it yet, or maybe you have, you know. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm
that
glad
with
it
us.
came across coherent, because I feel like the whole thing is like there's so many things going on, and it does take a while to process. So I'm glad that I was able to
Yeah.
share a little bit and it was coherent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Um.
Also, I want to.
Oh,
Okay.
go ahead. I was gonna say, go ahead of your UnaDish, but
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Also, I want to advocate for people who are um pregnant. You know, planning to become pregnant. About to go in labor, whatever. If you're feeling uncomfortable with the care that you're given, you have the option to leave, and you have the option to find someone else until you're comfortable. You know, a lot of times we feel like, oh well, it's too late in my pregnancy, or well, it might be worse somewhere else. But trust me, if they're treating you bad already, they're gonna continue to treat you bad,
Mhm.
and you might die. Like, I
Yeah.
know that's dramatic, but it's fucking true.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
if they're
especially
not,
being a black woman, our mortality rates are high being
no,
giving
yeah,
birth.
seriously.
And
So
Yeah.
I
just throwing that out
switched
there.
providers like halfway, and I wouldn't say
Mhm.
like to necessarily always look for somebody that's black, you know, because you would think that
Mhm.
they would be understanding and having care. But, you know, for me, the best that helped me was someone that just respected me fully and totally and heard me. And, you know, a
Absolutely.
lot of times, sometimes it's a person of color and sometimes it's not. So I just
Yeah.
would say just to be
Mhm.
open, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look for that connection, and maybe. I mean, I know it's, as Black people, when we see someone else who's Black, we're like, especially in like the healthcare profession, we want to run to them, like,
Yeah.
take me, you know.
But like
But
seriously, but then like they say,
all
our
that glitters
skin
ain't gold.
folk
Oh,
ain't kin folk.
same. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
True.
Yep.
To get into to mosey on into UnaDish, I have a question for our guest.
Don't do that again.
So the girl, I could do whatever I want because I'm grown. Okay. Um,
Girl.
I was gonna give a backstory to this question. Maybe the backstory will come after the question. Um, as a therapist, how do you get someone to really look at themselves and figure out their experience, themselves and their experiences, and figure out what it is that they need? So sometimes I go into therapy and I'm like, I don't have nothing to I don't have nothing to talk about. So sometimes I'll be wanting to cancel my sessions because I'm like, I don't have nothing to share today. Like I'm just like whatever. Like I'm nothing comes to mind. Or even if like, I don't have a therapist and I'm like, I feel like I need to be working on something, but I don't know what it is. Or it's like people keep telling me this thing about myself, but I don't believe that about myself. So is this something that I really need to work on? Or it's like you have that such negative self-talk, you don't really know if that's even some like an issue. So how do you get someone to figure out what it is that they need?
Hmm. I think that's what the first few sessions are for. You know what I mean? Is really finding out some of the underlying things, whether it's depression, anxiety, trauma, relationship issues, a gamut of things, and then being able to constantly work on those. And I always say, like, some of the best sessions are the ones where you're feeling good. Like, you don't have to like come in sad and have, the huge, worst traumatic story to like have a good therapy session. I feel like sometimes things hit better when you're in a clear space. Like, dang, like, where for real? You know what I mean? It seems like therapy is a place where you need to be like rescued all the time and only be at your lowest point to receive help. But I want to encourage people to say that, like, you can be okay and still need help and receive help. And so, yeah, I feel like it's so funny that you said, like, even you feel like canceling sessions and stuff. Like, I feel like those are sometimes some of the best sessions. And getting back to, yes, that was the other thing too, is like, um, asking those questions in the beginning and knowing what the main sort of underlying issue is helps you get back to that. So even when things are good, or you might not have anything to say, or you might not understand like something that like people want you to work on, like the therapist keeps that in back of their minds, like, okay, well, this is actually sort of the underlying issue, and like we can always talk about that in various ways. So I think that's important.
I think so too.
Oh, okay, I thought you were about to.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, I guess our black business is obviously you. Can you give them a little background on where to find you, where you're located, all that good? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll obviously have it in the description box, but
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so I have a private practice in New York, in Manhattan specifically. But because of COVID-19, I won't be in the office until there's a vaccine, at least. That's sort of what my supervisors and the rest of the other therapists are saying about doing therapy, which makes sense because I was like, I think a lot deeply into therapy, even with like how my clients like come to session, and to have a mask on is like masking your emotions. It's like, how are we really going to get somewhere deep if I can't hear you? Like, and you're kind of covering up, and, I'm covering up, and we're not really able to be open like that. So I think for the time being, therapy will be most effective virtually. And so that's what I'll be doing. And you can look at my website. It's drshakira.com. You can find me also at Dr. Shakira on Instagram, and just find out a little bit more about me, because I think that's really important too, is to like have a connection with your therapist. That's actually like the most important thing for me and for my clients. So just find out more about me, what my areas of expertise are, and I think you'll be able to find out if you're a good match or not.
Um, so if there was somebody who lived in Denver and they wanted to seek your services, could they?
Unfortunately, not, just because of the way that the license issues work. So with psychologists, they have a license, you're licensed to practice in the state that you reside in. And so because I don't reside in
Mm,
Denver, I won't be able to see them. Even
I
though
wonder how they
technically
do.
it's like virtually I could see,
Right.
yeah,
but
right.
yeah.
That makes me think. I wonder how they do this the talk space thing. Like, I wonder if it's
Mm,
all of
Yeah.
the therapists are in Colorado that you see, or If there's like
Yeah.
a nationwide license that you can get, I don't know. I have to do my research.
No, there's no nationwide license. They're pushing for that because there's a lot of people who there's certain areas that do like tri-state licenses. Like I believe the DMV area does like tri-state. I think maybe Colorado, Wyoming, like those sort of areas might.
Yeah.
So they might have like tri-state stuff, but I know like specifically for New York and California and Michigan, like the states that I've lived in, it's all you have to get a license in that state. And the sad part is they all have different requirements too. So if I were to move somewhere, like I'd have to like do a whole gamut of things.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
I know.
I'm getting stressed out just thinking about it.
Like,
right?
fuck.
Can we just really come up to speed?
Come on, government.
Yeah. Yep. You have a final thought, friend?
Is it that time?
It is.
No, I'm talking about for her.
It is. Do you hear them?
Oh, it is that time. Like, it is.
I'm like.
All health coworkers go crazy.
They going crazy, fam. There's someone with an air horn every day.
Every day. No, they're lit. That's okay. That's fine.
I'm usually out there with my pots and pans.
Yes, a special shout out and thank you to all of our essential workers. We so appreciate you.
Definitely.
And all of our non-essential workers too. We love you too.
Right.
We especially love the essential workers.
Right. Especially during this time.
Right.
I didn't say that. She did.
No, shut up.
Okay, well, we're going to get out of here. Do you have any final words?
Or final thought? Or something that you
go to therapy. Shit.
Yes,
that's what I have to say.
Go to therapy. Shit.
Right.
That should be the podcast episode name. Damn.
We can't do that.
I want to. We can. We can do something we want to do.
No.
We're independent. INDEPENDENT. Do you know what that mean, man?
Are you done?
I'm done, I suppose. I piggyback that. Go to therapy. Shit.
Yeah, and I third that. Go to therapy. Shit.
For real. Oh, well, Shaakira, I do miss you, friend. I just wish that we had those little talks that we used to have when we used to get everybody together.
Yeah, I miss those.
Yeah, that was a good time.
You could have a Zoom talk. I know people.
It wasn't. We could, but that talk was extra special. When we get back to
when the world open up,
when outside open up.
But even then, it's like the personal connection, like hugging people, and it's just we're all like mentally and physically and emotionally it's gonna carry with us.
Yeah, we've been slightly traumatized.
Yeah.
So it's fine. We'll just figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it the fuck out. Get a therapist. It's the perfect time to get a therapist.
Okay.
Honestly, shameless plug for all therapists. But if you know somebody in New York, holla at me.
Yes. And like I said, we'll be showing her social links in our description as well as her website. You can just click on it, find out more information for her to see if she's a good match for you. And take care of yourselves, you guys. Stay safe.
Yes, definitely stay safe.
Definitely. All right, protect your neck. We out of here.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Melanin Voices podcast. Before you go, though, show some love for your favorite podcast by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, and while you're there, subscribe too. And a comment on SoundCloud and YouTube. And be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, or your boo, or whoever you think will want to be a part of our Melanin Voices family. Until next time.